XCOM Chimera Squad is a turn-based tactics game with a light strategy layer sprinkled on top. I'm here today to shed some light on the question, is XCOM Chimera Squad worth your money? Before we begin, a few notes. This review will contain minor mechanical and plot spoilers. At the time of recording I've spent 30 hours playing, and I've completed the game on normal difficulty and played a little on expert. Any general references I make to XCOM are referring to the new franchise game that began in 2012. Also, this review is primarily aimed at people who are new to XCOM or enjoyed the previous games. If you currently dislike XCOM, Chimera Squad is too similar to change your mind. XCOM Chimera Squad takes place in the same timeline as the previous games, 5 years after the Commander's victory over the invading alien forces of the prior two games. Rehabilitated aliens live alongside humans and hybrids in cities such as the thrillingly named City 31, home of the game. You control the titular Chimera Squad, helping the local police department keep the peace when something above their pay grade kicks off. The mayor of the city is assassinated, and Chimera Squad is tasked with investigating 3 groups of ne'er-do-wells to establish who may have offed the big cheese. Your squad consists of 11 pre-made characters. You pick 4 to begin, then add 4 more as time passes. You won't see the other 3 in the playthrough. Maybe they got stuck in traffic. It's not clear. You pick a group of crims to start investigating, and the game is afoot. The core gameplay loop consists of completing missions in the city's various districts, then using the rewards to boost your squad's gear and stats before moving on to the next mission. Missions consist of 1 to 3 levels, known as encounters. For those new to turn-based tactics, imagine a game of chess, except some of the pieces are aliens and everybody's heavily armed. Sometimes your goal is to simply eliminate all of the enemy units. Other times your goal may be to collect a certain item or escort a civilian to safety. Let's take a look at a mission now as they form the bulk of the game. Each encounter begins with a breach. 1 or more entrances to a level will be available, such as crashing through skylights or just kicking a door in. You select the order in which your units will burst in, then they each get a free shot before any enemies can respond. Any aggressive enemies still standing will fire back, a couple might buff themselves, then your units dash to cover and normal XCOM gameplay begins. Breaching opens up some interesting tactical options. Do you focus all your fire on that big dude who will be a problem later? Or do you try to take out the smaller aggressive guys just to prevent some turn 1 damage? After the breach, experienced XCOMers will notice the other major changes that Chimera Squad brings: intertwined turns and all enemies being visible from turn 1. In previous XCOMs your entire team moves, then the entire enemy team moves. In Chimera Squad you get to use 1 unit, then maybe 1 or 2 enemies have a go, then your next unit, and so forth. This can have the effect of making a weaker unit a higher priority than normal, as it's earlier in the turn order, so you want to put it down before it can cause too much trouble. Previous XCOMs had smaller squads of enemies that you'd be able to tear through in a single turn, and this was optimal, as wounds were heavily punished. They encouraged setting up your crew in safe spots before triggering an assault at your own pace. In Chimera Squad, damage to your crew is almost inevitable, and the game becomes a race to pick off the enemies before your team succumbs to their wounds. It's like running down a steep hill. You can't stop running, but you can choose where to place your feet to try and prevent a nasty tumble. As damage is inevitable, it's less harshly punished in Chimera Squad, right up until it isn't. If your team members make it out with more than a sliver of life left, they'll suffer no consequences. Even if they stagger out with most of their blood missing, the worst effect is a penalty to one of their stats until they spend a couple of days away from missions to heal up. If your team members are defeated in combat, they start to bleed out. Leave them untended for 3 more rounds, and they die. Only then are you really punished, as this is an instant game over and you'll need to restart the mission. Once a mission is complete, your crew return to base and prepare for the next one. The strategy layer in Chimera Squad is much lighter than in previous games. Researching new technology is still around, and Spec Ops are comparable to the Resistance Ring from XCOM 2's War of the Chosen DLC, but everything is pretty stripped down and boils down to wait a few days and then receive your bonus. It's fine, it's not the focus of the game. I'd say you spend about as much time on the strategy layer as you do watching your crew kick in doors and windows. Pre-made characters are a new feature for the series. Previous games gave you blank slates. You could change their names and appearance, but they never really had any personality outside of your own imagination. You might grow attached to them because of something they did in game, like a heroic rescue, but the game didn't really provide enough tools for you to make any particularly distinctive soldiers. Each character here can generally be summed up in a few words, like pistol-packing XCOM, wisecracking medic, or snake lady that excites the internet. The writing isn't going to change the world, but it's not bad. I particularly like the more light-hearted characters such as Cherub and Claymore. I enjoy the background chatter on missions and in the base, especially when it provides more details about the larger world or calls back to previous titles. The characters' skill sets are diverse and well thought out. There's no character that must be taken to ensure success, and no obvious choice to be benched either. A couple of the characters are very strong in particular circumstances, but merely decent the rest of the time. That's fine though, as you quickly get your 5th and 6th squaddies so you can experiment with different combinations. Upon levelling up, characters gain new skills, mostly fixed, but you have a couple of choices to make. In general though, you create new ways to play by changing your team members rather than changing how they level. Discovering combinations of abilities that enable the team to enhance each other's skills is one of the greatest joys of the game. I won't spoil too much here, but a simple example. All of the characters can go into Overwatch, enabling them to shoot at enemies that move into their line of sight. Snake friend Torque can pull enemies to her with her tongue. If another unit aims their Overwatch near Torque and she pulls an enemy in, that enemy is moved, so the other unit will shoot at them in their new exposed location. The campaign took roughly 20 hours on my first playthrough, on normal. You defeat all 3 of the criminal groups, then a couple of big final missions. If you're an XCOM vet, normal is way too easy for you. I was swimming in resources and epic weapons by the middle of Act 2. It's possible, I guess, that you could go into a traditional XCOM death spiral, as all your units end up with too many injury penalties to be effective in a tough fight. However, it's very easy to go the other way and snowball out of control until everyone's highly skilled and equipped with shiny new murder tools, and the enemies become, not trivial, but certainly less scary. I'm looking forward to moving up through the difficulties. The game is not perfect technically. It's built on the XCOM 2 engine and veterans will be familiar with the occasional glitched animation. More concerning is the crash to desktops I've experienced, which I'd say I've seen about 8 times in 30 hours. Upon reloading, I've never had the game immediately crash again though, so it's more of an annoyance than a deal breaker for me. Replayability is encouraged by the limited squad size and branches in the storyline for the groups that you face. There's nothing major there though. I've beaten the Grey Phoenix group twice, and I've faced the same foes in the final fight, but on one occasion I had to destroy some static targets spread around the map, and on another I had to prevent enemies from fleeing the scene. It's cool. With all of that said, let's return to the question. Is XCOM Chimera Squad worth your money? If you're an XCOM purist and you like to push on through squad wipes and fight until the bitter end with your carefully crafted band of grunts, then you'll probably see Chimera Squad as a step in the wrong direction. If you're the sort of player who sees the levels as puzzles and soldiers as tools to solve them, and doesn't enjoy losing troops, then Chimera Squad is amazing for you. No more wandering through the level to find a group of Xenos to play with. They're all right there, so think fast. Chimera Squad respects your time in this regard more so than previous titles. I prefer the overall tone of the combat in Chimera Squad too. If previous games were thrillers, this is a big flashy superhero team-up. If you're thinking of dipping your toe in the franchise, now's the time. Chimera Squad is the most accessible XCOM game yet. It gives you a good idea of what the franchise is all about, as in any XCOM game you spend the majority of the time in scraps, and if it leaves you wanting a deeper experience, then XCOM Enemy Unknown and XCOM 2 are ready and waiting. All in all, I recommend XCOM Chimera Squad. Its full price of £16, $20 is great value for a game of this size and quality. The game's smaller scope means I may not rack up 400 hours in it like I did with XCOM 2, but I'm definitely spending a lot of time with the squad this year.